All right, I'm gonna try to make this as concise as possible. I'll try to give you guys the outlook I have on a micro time scale and the macro time scales, and we'll just run through each time in order to figure out a thesis for the coming days. However, I am leaning bullish as of now due to a couple of factors. Along with, I'll talk about this theory that I don't fully understand yet, but people were talking about the roll dates, and then overall we'll take a look at the macro bullish outlook on some of the time signatures. All right, so starting off with this, I mentioned earlier that there were a couple of necklines that were established by encapsulating fractals. And as of recently, within the past 2 weeks, that we're actually hovering around this neckline and showing consolidating strength. However, within this encapsulating move of all these fractals forming amongst each other, breaking neckline after neckline, we've actually pretty much created the same fractal once we hopped over this neckline and we established it on a smaller scale right here, which shows me two things. One, the volume is drying out on the bear side to establish momentum for the stock to even create these fractals in the first place, and it's creating some sort of compression of volume. And you know what happens when you compress the volume to a minimal level? It tends to rock it out. It's almost like building pressure inside of, like, I don't know, like water, like, you know, when you fill up a water balloon. That's what I like to think of it as. Low volume indication on bearish days, along with higher volume on bull days, confirming higher lows, trend lines, and all of these things. We're looking pretty fucking bullish now on the micro scale. I was micro bearish around November 16th. We played that out. Now we're confirming higher lows off of this trend line from October 29th. I hope you guys can see that right here. So in that aspect, I am bullish, right? But I wanted to show you guys this real quick before we get into the macro scale. So you see how you have these inverse head and shoulders patterns that are playing out. I always give credit to Jen Collado for shouting this out around beginning of October. We're actually playing out the same fractal as you can see right here. If you take a look at this 0.786 fib level that was established at a peak on August 24th, we actually have that same establishment of a peak at the same retracement value of the 0.786 dating to November 2nd. And then you also have this retrace value that was seen at $52. I mean, a retest value of the fib level at $52 that was seen on September 13th. We saw the same kind of price action the following November 8th. Now, the key difference between these is the amount of days that are set in between. I know some people in the community are keen to calculating days within the fractal. However, I don't think it's that simple, which is why I try to steer clear away from that. The most I use is time zones to try to get a sense of when we could see strength, and I'll get into that in a minute as well. But however, I do see a reason why, you know, I do see a valid reason to say that the fractal is playing out a little bit faster on a micro scale, because not only do you have these same established necklines that were broken within mid to late September and early to late October, but you're also having the same pattern play out over here with the same type of necklines respecting the same fib levels. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but the key difference between this is take a look at this time zone, right? And let me go ahead and let me I don't want to delete this because it kind of like shows where everything is. I don't know if you can see the green boxes. And let me go ahead and delete this yellow so that way you guys can see a little more thoroughly. And then we'll go ahead and delete these lines right here because I still don't know why the fuck they're there. Okay. So, oh wait, those were there for a reason. Oops. Yeah, let me just go ahead and keep that there. Okay. So the key difference between this portion of the fractal playing out, let me go ahead and highlight this. Okay. And then this portion, I hope you guys can see what I'm talking about here, because I mean it's not hard to miss. You know what I mean? Right here you have your. Let me go ahead and do this. And just make sure I'm doing everything right here. Boom. Boom. There we go. It's not cookie cutter, but it's close enough. Okay, boom. So the key difference that you have here is, and why I'm leaning bullish in the micro sense now. Again, last week I was bearish in the micro sense, and we got that little dip. Is the fib levels. Okay, I always talk about the fib levels. Take a look at this 0.786. I'm gonna call it a retracement value, but I'll just call it a fib level as well. At this point 786, you had textbook Wyckoff distribution playouts. Shout out to David Marino for being one of the first YouTubers to call that out. And when you had the retracement down, you had to revisit the. This is interchangeable as the 0.6. Okay, here it's supposed to look like this. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I flipped the fib. Fuck, I always do that shit. I don't know why. Okay, but usually people call this the 0.786. It's around the same value. You had a textbook retracement over there when we saw our spring, and then throughout the consolidation, the highest we got once we got to this time zone 2. Goddamn, my words are everywhere, man. But you get what I'm saying here. I explained everything about Fibonacci time zones and how the sequencing of the events is determinant on the input of the days that you set from 0 to 1. And then from then on, textbook Fibonacci plays out. Okay, we got that? Cool. So during our time zone 2 bracket, we saw a peak at the 0.618 level, which was around 43.55. And then we played out going into our next fractal, which I pointed out right here. And I believe this gap is to create a new input of days in order to play out a different fractal on a faster speed, so that way people don't think they figured it out and start day trading it. And here's where I get into the bullish outlook now. So when you had this 0.786 retest here, I'll go ahead and do this. We had this 0.786 retest going up to the top, and then you also had the 1 retest at the 46 dial level. When we retraced, we did not hit the 0.236. The lowest we saw was around the 0.382 or the 0.314. Otherwise seen as the golden pocket for a lot of people, if I were to have drawn this fib correctly. However, the numbers are flipped. It's just easier for me to look at it that way, but they all hold the same value. Now, the key difference is that with this peak right here, we saw a retest of the 0.618 fib level. With this revisit, we saw a retest of the 0.786 level. And then once we retrace back down, we actually retraced a little bit above this 0.5 level. Whereas when we revisited this 0.618 and then we retraced down after, we revisited the brackets between the 0.236 and the 0.314. So with this outlook, this to me looked like, sorry, goddamn, my mouth was dry. This to me looked like a more bearish scenario versus what we have going on right here. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm talking about here, but I highlighted the green boxes to indicate the fractal playing out separate from each other, and I even started the fib retracement from the peak down to the bottom, so that way you guys can see what the hell I'm talking about here. It almost looks like a weird letter M. Like, I don't know how to explain it, man. But so what does this tell us? Well, now that I see this, right, I would expect that recently, hopefully I'm correct on this, if I were to switch to a smaller time frame, let's say like the 15-minute, we could get a good gauge of the kind of price action that we saw. If this is correct, that our peak that we saw, hold on, let me just make sure I'm making sure everything is correct. Cool. Cool. With the peak that we saw, lost my train of thought. Okay, basically what I'm saying is this, right? When these retracement levels are now being respected, when you're moving up on the fib levels, the higher you consolidate on the fib, is the more bullish that pattern is playing out. So anything usually above the 0.5 and above is usually an indication of bullish action. Like the bulls are taking over the demand, right? So here you had bearish price action because usually the consolidation was held under the 0.5 and we barely even held strength above it on this retracement. But for here, you can see clearly that we're holding retracement values above the 0.5 and respecting it to its fullest capacity. as of right now, I would have to take a deeper dive in terms of making a third retracement and drawing another rectangular box to see if another fractal is playing out going into tomorrow. But judging by the amount of compression that we're seeing with these new fractals forming, as it's respecting a trend line historically from October 28th, along with forming higher lows, and then along with making bullish patterns, I would assume that with the amount of compression that we're seeing within the fractal is going to cause some sort of move to the upside very soon. And this is where we get into the macro outlook, and I'll talk about those MACD indicators that I've been saying about the 22nd to the 26th right now. So, like I said, usually around here, I remember describing LPSs maybe 2 or 3 videos ago. It was either a number 10, number 11, or number 12. Either way, in the description, I basically described and gave a textbook definition of what LPS is. I'm not going to go through that again. But basically, we're establishing the demand side for the bulls to be stronger in this sense because we are forming higher lows. And if you take a retracement from the all-time high all the way to our swing low, which the all-time high is technically our swing high in this stance, then we could assume that with this retracement value, if we were to consolidate over it, now we are currently leaning bullish in the macro sense. And the reason why I say the macro sense is, even if you switch this to the daily chart, this is, these are daily levels. So I'm not, too technical on what kind of time frame I have up, but more so where your retracement values lie. Like, it wouldn't make sense for a retracement value to lie within this downtrend and it to be considered a daily strength. It just wouldn't make sense because it's not a hardcore resistance that's what's it called? That's affecting the daily chart as much as it is like on the 45 minutes. So this resistance is really keen to the daily chart. It's an all-time high, of course. Like, well, just talk about the consolidation for a minute here. But consolidating above the 0.5 fib level should give us some momentum going later into this week. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If you see these trends and you see people, pointing out these patterns, and you know, chances are traders are looking at the same damn thing that you are. So it's not gonna be a sort of like surprise if we were to see a technical breakout. Shout out Mr. Booksy for pointing this out in his analysis of fractals, where he said usually it takes about 3 to 4 tests of a resistance or a neckline before we see a technical breakout of the equity in terms of the fractal playing out, and then it'll play out in terms of respecting new fib levels, going into new all-time highs, and that we're closing in on the wedge. I mean, not the wedge. I don't want to say the wedge, but the pattern playing out, right? Again, this is off the fly. If I had more time to think about this, I would have official names for you guys. But like I said, I'm still learning TA as it goes. Please don't take anything I say with, any sort of validity at all. I look below. Like, I'm not a financial advisor, man. Like, I'm just doing this shit because I think it's fun for me. I'm still learning as I go. But as it is, this is a lot of piggybacking off of a lot of fucking people that I have a lot of respect for in terms of the AMC community, which is why I don't want to feel like I'm regurgitating this information, but I hope to give my spin on this in terms of not just telling you guys what will happen, but the reason why it'll happen behind it. Like, I feel like that's missing a lot. Like, I explained last week how people were tossing around the word SOS, but why SOS? You know what I mean? Like, those kinds of things need explanations behind them. And if you don't give it to the general populace and something happens to where they're against your conviction, now it becomes this war within your own community where it's like, what the fuck? Like, I thought this was supposed to happen. Like, you know what I mean? So in terms of my sorry, let me go here. I'm all over the place, man. Here we go. All right. In terms of the 22nd through the 26th, what I was basically hinting at was a strong move to the upside. I was not calling out all-time highs. You can fact check me on that. It's in the past on the last 3 videos that I've done, where I've basically just been calling out a strong move on the macro charts because of a couple of things. One being the MACD crossover that was due for this week, that I've been calling out since November 15th, when I saw the alignment of these bars, and I was like, hey, we're looking pretty good in terms of all the money flow, all the RSI not being too overbought. We're confirming higher lows. I mean, even this 3-day candle here, you can see that it rests on top of this huge support that we formed after we broke out Jesus Christ, after last week on the 15th. And we established some sort of zone of demand for the bulls to push up into another higher low. Again, confirming this trend line from October 28th. And then we settled in this zone where the bulls have now, pushed back against, the test of might that the bears have put upon, the bulls earlier in, last Thursday? Yeah, this is when the candle started. So when you have these long wicks at the bottom, that basically means that, you have a lot of buying pressure that's, building up and pushing back against the force. And if you look at the volume, in terms of what was being traded on the bear side, it was one of the lowest volume candles that we've seen in AMC since before the first squeeze even happened, which gives me confidence that it's like if you're okay, it's a historically bullish thing. I read up on it that like if you are forming higher lows on low volume, that means that there is a huge demand for an upside swing to happen in the following to precede it, because you have this sort of compression of comfortability, right? Like it's almost like a bull. They call it a bull crawl, where the bulls test where they're comfortable at new levels every time before they are ready to break out with the amount of strength that they want to. And you have a lot of sideline money that's looking at some of these breakouts and waiting for things to happen. I mean, I saw this one day trader on YouTube who's waiting for the 60s before he starts putting liquidity on AMC. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of power that you have when you establish momentum and consolidation at different support levels, that it shows strength and it shows comfortability for new investors to come in and comfortably invest their money. You don't want people to just come in, throw their money in, thinking this is a quick and easy play. Well, it kind of is, but you don't want people to look at your chart and be like, I'm not comfortable with that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this isn't strong price action on the macro sense. This is showing stair-stepping consolidation on multiple levels. You can even witness it on the day chart. Beautiful candle right here. As you can see, we closed above the body of this green candle that formed off of the reversal yesterday. On Friday. And judging by the wick that was formed with the amount of buying pressure that came in, I believe it was towards the beginning of the day. The fact that we closed above the body of this green candle shows that we have strength moving forward. And I think that someone had pointed out on the 4-hour that there was a 3 white soldiers pattern that was forming. As of right now, the only thing that's making me feel like this candle is a fluke is the fact of how low the volume is for this. Hold on. I wish there was a way that I could see the volume for the candle. Let me see. Anyways, but the volume is significantly low for this 4-hour candle that we saw at the end of the day, where we saw a pushback from the bears, just seemingly out of nowhere. They only got negative 0.6% of the stock, so nothing to really be too worried about. Plus, you see the MACD on the 4-hour about to flip. Multiple breakouts on multiple time frames, guys. I don't know how else to reiterate that I'm bullish as fuck on the stock. And also, I mentioned this time zone that was coming up when I was talking about the sequencing of the fib, when I did the math for when we saw a run up versus the run off of that run up and what we could see leading up to those days. But let me see. But nothing to me looks too concerning. The fact that I'm losing fucking thousands of dollars every day because I've been time decaying options, that hurts. You know what I mean? But it's all for a greater cause. Shit. I could lose fucking thousands more, but I'm sticking to my guns and what I believe in and pushing back against the forces that want us to take our money out, so that way they have something available to buy because they know they fucked up on the back end. So my situation could be much worse. That's all I can say. But yeah, everybody just keep your head up. You know, not all good things are gonna come to fruition when you want them to. That's just a motto that you should stick by in life. That I have to constantly remind myself every day of. You know, I've lost a lot of good things within this year. You know what I mean? A lot having to do with personal life. You know, I would love to tell my story one day, but I don't want to tell my story before the success comes because that to me that doesn't make sense. I haven't even finished my goals. You know what I mean? I'm not here to pity myself. I'm here to justify myself and my stance as a man to be able to continue within this world that's going to constantly be pushing back on you, especially when you have things and people and responsibilities in life that's going to test your might with a lot of things going on. There's going to be people in society that is going to have to go through things much worse than you, and people who have better situations than you. But the only person that you're gonna have at the end of the day is you. You know what I mean? That's not financial advice. That ain't life advice. That's just real shit. You know what I mean? I'm a grown ass man. I don't look for anybody to baby me at the end of the day. I'm only 20 years old, but I feel like I feel like I feel like I've done enough to where um, there's a lot of things in life that I'm seeing differently from a perspective where it's like, you sort of feel like an outcast. You know what I mean? But it's not a bad thing. That's just something that you're familiar with because you know, like you don't see people operating the same as you. You know that's why you're here. Who the fuck holds through a stock that looks like it's dying? You know what I mean? I mean, even though we're at $41, but who I know there's probably people who watch me out here that like try to convince people to invest with them. Like, stop that shit. You know what I mean? You can't save the world. Just get your bag. That's all I'm gonna say. So, you know, and then you will get to laugh about it one day. Personally, for me, I'm not I'm not I'm not very public when it comes to finances. Um, but I strongly believe in this movement. I couldn't be more proud of the people that have been, hitting me up and all this stuff and just, telling me that they appreciate the amount of work that I've been that I've been doing for them, even though, I got people older than me, hitting me up and, it puts into perspective that when you give value to this world, that respect goes both ways, for the people that are willing to listen and for the information that I'm willing to put out. So, that's all I really wanted to say to you guys. I appreciate everybody that shows support and everything like that, especially through these rough times. I know the portfolios are looking red, but I wholeheartedly trust and believe that we'll see a violent breakout soon that'll just make us shit our pants. I'm just being real here. Let me check the weekly real quick. Oh yeah, weekly's looking good. Weekly is looking real good. Cool. We still got 3 more days left of trading, so we can easily push that up more, forming higher lows on the weekly too. That's nice. If we could get above the body of this candle, that'd be great. All right, so I'll end the video right there. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Thank you.